Hey everyone, this is Kathy from K-Del Handmade, and I wanted to welcome you to my video tutorial today. Today we have a really fun project and there is a bit of a funny backstory to it, so I'm really excited to share it with you. Just a quick reminder that if you like this video tutorial and if you'd like to see more, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe, and hit that little bell notification so that you are alerted every time I have a new video pop up on the channel. Okay, so now let me introduce you to what I am calling affectionately the neck basket. All right, so this is what it looks like. It's just the cutest little thing, and it has a clasp, so you can hook it on. You can have it right here hanging around your neck. Actually, I'm going to make mine a little bit longer, I think. Yeah, there we go. All right. So there is a spot inside here where you can put your phone. And then if you are a content creator or if you just want to have some fun, like recording stuff that you're doing, maybe you're an artist or you like making things with your hands and you're trying to figure out a good way to have it show from your perspective, this is a great little project. So you can put your phone in there, hit record, you can do whatever you're doing with your hands, record your content, and it's all thanks to the neck basket. So let me just give you a little background on what I'm calling the neck basket. First, I will say this is not my pattern. This is not my design. This is a pattern that I saw in a reel, and it was in another language, and it was in metric measurements, so centimeters, which I don't, from the United States, I don't really know metric, so I wanted to translate it into imperial measurements. Also, the fact that it looked just like a neck basket. There is a video out there, a commercial, years ago. I don't even know how I came across it, but if you've never seen this infomercial, commercial, whatever you want to call it, do yourselves a favor and just Google neck basket commercial. You're welcome. It's the craziest thing. But when I saw this pattern on this Instagram page, and I will link down to the original where I found this pattern from. Again, like I said, it's not my pattern. I am just translating it into English and into imperial measurements so that we all can make it a little bit easier. I do want to thank that person for coming up with this, because as soon as I saw it, I went, oh my gosh, it's a fabric neck basket. Anyway, it was just really funny, and I was like, I need to make one right away. And also I have some projects where sometimes I'm doing stuff and I really wish I had something that would hold my phone for me, like right here, so that I could show exactly what I was doing. So enter the neck basket. Super fun, very easy, very quick. One of my sewing friends I was talking to about this particular item right here. We had a lot of fun about just different things that you could do with this, different games you could have fun with and stuff like that. So anyways, it's a super fun project. I hope you guys enjoy making it. I hope you enjoy this video tutorial. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, let's go over the pieces that we're going to need to make this project today. You will need 2 pieces of fabric, one for your exterior, one for your lining. This is the main part, which I'm calling the front, and then this is the main back. So main front, main back, exterior and lining for both. This one will measure 11 3/4 inch wide by 5.5 inches tall. This one measures 5 inches wide by 3 inches tall. You will also need a strip of elastic. This is just, what is this, 3/4 inch elastic that I have here, and it is 4.5 inches long. You will also need some webbing. I'm using 1 inch webbing here. You will need a longer piece, somewhere between 20 and 24 inches. If you're making this for a child, you probably will want it to be a little bit shorter, so maybe around 16 inches. And then you will need a shorter piece that is 3 inches wide. You will also need a D-ring, a slider adjuster bar, and then a lobster swivel clasp. And that is all you need to make this project. Okay, so let's go ahead first, mark our pieces, and then we'll head over to the sewing machine. Okay, for our main front pieces, we have to do a little measuring and cutting first before we head to the sewing machine. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the center of the bottom of our exterior piece. Now you can make a little snip. I'm just going to, I finger pressed mine so I can see where that line is. I'm just going to make a mark here on the bottom. Here, let me turn it around this way so we know this is the bottom if you're using directional fabric. If you are not, it doesn't matter. Okay, so there is the center. We are going to measure 2.5 inches from the center and make a mark, and then 2.5 inches to the left. So 2.5 inches to the right and 2.5 inches to the left. From the top, we are going to measure 2 inches down, and same on this side, 2 inches down. All right, from those marks, we're going to connect that to make our diagonal cut lines. And then we're just going to cut those corners off. So you can use a rotary cutter or you can use scissors. For me, a rotary cutter is faster and straighter. Okay, so that is how our front piece looks. Now we need to do the exact same thing to the other piece. Again, you can measure and cut just as we did for this piece. Or what I like to do, just to save a little time, is I'm just going to lay that right on top. And then I'm going to use my exterior piece as a guide, as a template, so I know where to cut my lining. Okay, there we go. So our front exterior and our front lining is cut. We can put the front exterior to the side for now. Now we need to mark a little spot on our lining piece. So I'm using waterproof canvas here. And what I'm doing is I'm doing the scratch test. So one good way to figure out which is the front and which is the back of waterproof canvas is to give it a little scratch. I scratched on this side, nothing showed up. If you scratch on the back, on the wrong side, you get a little mark. I don't know if you can see that because it's pretty faint, but that is a good way to know that if you're working on the front or the back. Okay, so on the front, what I want to do is I want to measure about, let me see here. I'm just going to fold this in half so I keep the center in mind. And then we're going to measure up 2 inches and make a little mark. And I'm just going to draw a line here. This is a heat erasable pen, so I'm not worried about that being seen because I'll just get it with a quick little dab of heat and it'll get rid of the line. So don't worry about that. But that is where we're going to be attaching our strip of elastic. So what we're going to do, we'll do this over at the sewing machine, but we're going to fold under the edge a little bit and sew that down, and then same thing on this side, fold under the edge and sew that down. All right, so we'll do all of that at the machine. Now we have all of our pieces prepped, and let's head on over to our sewing machine. Okay, let's get my least favorite part done first. So we're going to take our short strap and our D-ring. We're going to slide it over that D-ring bar. And then we can just add a clip to hold it in place. You also could go ahead and baste stitch along this bottom edge here, but really we just need it to be held for right now until we can sew it down. Now to make the strap, it's just going to be like a traditional strap. We're going to take our slider adjuster bar, one end of the strap webbing, and slide it up and over that center bar. And then folding this down, we're going to take it to the machine. You could secure this in place by using a rivet if you prefer, but since this is such a small strap, like we don't need a lot of extra hardware and things to add bulk to the project. This project is going to be right up next to our neck and to our skin, so I'm trying to not add hardware if we don't need it. So that piece is up to you. We just need to sew that across there. Now, of course, you could add a little piece of decorative something to cover this raw edge, But again, it's going to be the inside of the strap and no one's going to see it. So I don't worry too much about this part. All right, now coming to the other side of our strap, taking the lobster clasp, we're going to have it hanging down. And then coming back, we're going to take this end, slide it up and over that center adjuster bar one more time. You can make sure that your strap is not twisted. And that is what you have. So just a cute short little strap. We're not going to do anything to this end just yet. And then we have our D-ring piece right here. So we can set these to the side and let's move on to the main part of the bag. All right, grabbing our two back pieces, what I'm calling the back pieces, we're going to take them again. You can check to make sure. Yeah, and good thing I did because I was thinking this was the front and it's actually the back. So with a little scratch test, I can see that's the back. This is the front. We're going to take these two pieces, place them right sides together along the top edge. Again, if you're not using directional fabric, it doesn't matter. And then we're going to sew along this straight edge at 1/4 inch. Okay, once we get that sewn, we're going to turn it through so that it is wrong sides together. You can add some clips here if you just want to help that fold to stay in place. Sometimes, depending on the type of material you're using, it might want to slip and slide as you're sewing. So clips always are a good help. Okay, now along this top folded edge, we are just going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch all the way across. All right, now that we have that little piece top stitch, we're going to grab our main front, and then we have our base here, our back. We're going to flip it over and line it up along this bottom edge. Now it should match up perfectly. And I'm going to mark in at 1/4 of an inch from each side. All right, and then that's going to be our stitch line. So we don't want to go all the way to the end. We're just going to stop at that, start and stop at that 1/4 inch marked line. And again, I'm living on the wild side and not using clips. So I just want to make sure that my stuff is lined up correctly before I start sewing. So we're sewing all the way across this edge at 1/4 of an inch. Okay. And now we want to take, actually, yes, let's do this part next. We're going to take it and fold it up. So we're coming up this angled side right here. So we're just going to fold this up. And for this one, I definitely am going to clip it in place because it's at an angle. And then we're going to start right where our stitch line ended, and we're going to sew all the way up to the end of this piece, using our 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then we're going to do the exact same thing to the other side, folding this up. Okay, I'm going to clip that in place. And then we're going to fold this, or sew this edge down at 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so once you have that sewn, that's what it should look like. We sort of have this little interesting looking shape right here. Next thing we need to do is grab our strap pieces. We're going to attach these here. So what you want to do is take one of your strap ends. It really doesn't matter which one you use, just take one of them. I'm going to remove this clip. We want it centered here. I believe this is 2 inches and this is a 1-inch strip, so about a half of an inch to the top and the bottom. And I'm just letting mine overhang by about a half of an inch. Sorry, a quarter of an inch. And I'm just going to baste it in place. I'm going to baste it at about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I just really need it to be held in place for right now. Okay, and then coming over to the other side, grabbing our other strap piece. Now this would be the front of our strap, so think of this as the outside of the bag. So we want to make it right sides together with our exterior piece here. And we're going to come over here and we're going to do the exact same thing. So centering it in the side. And again, I let mine overhang by about a quarter of an inch and I'm going to baste it in place. All right, so once we get all of these pieces like sewn together, this is what we have. It looks kind of like a mess right now, but it is exactly what we want. And I'm trying to keep it all together so I can set it to the side because now we're ready to move on to the lining. All right, so grabbing our lining piece and our strip of elastic, we're going to fold one end of the elastic under by about a quarter of an inch. And we want it centered here on this. Let me just see if I want to make sure I drew my line long enough. 1, 2, 1, 2, yep. Okay, I just wanted to make sure my line was actually centered. All right, so taking your elastic, folding it under by a quarter of an inch, we're going to line it up with that line that we drew, and we're just going to sew down the side. And I would usually sew, as you saw, I went all the way back up and then back down just to give it a little extra strength. It is elastic, so it should hold pretty well, but I just wanted to give it that little extra there. Okay, now the same thing on this side, folding that end under by about a quarter of an inch, lining it up there. Let me make sure my elastic is even. There we go. All right, and then we're going to sew this side down. All right, so now that our lining is sewn together, we have our little strip of elastic here. I will, like I said, I will take this to the iron and give it like just a real quick little burst of steam to get rid of that line, but I'm really not worried about it. You're not really going to see it anyway. So now we are ready to put this thing together. Now this part can be a little tricky because of the shape of this since we sewn the base on. So what I will say is that what we want to do is we want to lay it down like this and sew it together all the way around. So you're going to have to work piece by piece and pull the things together as it goes. So I don't clip this part. I might clip on the top just to help hold it in place left to right while I get started. But you'll see once we get going, you don't want it clipped. It would be very hard to clip this all the way across. all the way around, I should say. All right, there we go, and we are straight. So keeping all of this together, we're going to leave a turning hole here at the top of the panel, and then we are just going to sew all the way around the perimeter of the bag at 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, and as you can see, what I was saying, it's really hard to clip this beforehand, so just go, as you get to each side, just go ahead and hold it, and then you can sew as you go. And then your bag, your piece will start to roll up on you. And that's just the nature of the project. All right, this last piece, this last section is where it gets a little tricky. So just go slow. Okay, make sure your hardware is out of the way. So we sew up the side here. All right, and then make sure all of your hardware and everything is tucked inside of the bag as you come back across the top of this project. Trying to make sure my D-ring stays out of the way. All right. All right, so now that I have that all sewn, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in here and clip these corners a little bit. I might make a little triangle notch here in this corner. Trim this corner. And this one. Again, a little. There we go. All right, and that is just going to help us so that we can, when we turn it through, that the corners and everything will poke out nicely and they lay nice and flat for us. Okay, so now that we have that done, it's time to turn it through. Okay, once you get it all turned through, this is what it is looking like. We are almost done. What we need to do now is close up this turning hole here at the top. So I'm just going to fold the seam allowance down across this opening, trying to keep it as even as possible. I'm going to clip it in place here, and then I will double check from the other side just to make sure that it looks how I want it to. Okay, actually let me roll this seam a little bit between my fingers to make sure it's right there at the top. And let's see, yeah, I'm just going to clip it in place all the way across just to make sure that everything is laying nice and flat. It's just going to make it easier for when I sew. All right, now the original pattern just has you top stitch. The video that I saw just has you top stitch straight across this edge, but I kind of like having it top stitched all the way around all these sides, you know, except for down here at the little basket part. Since you have this top stitch along this piece right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my top stitching so I can flatten it out and get pretty close to that corner. I'm going to start my top stitching there. And at 1/8 of an inch, I'm just going to go all the way around the whole outside of the bag. All right, now all of our corners are poked out. We have that top stitched all the way around. I think it just looks really nice having it top stitched down the sides and the back there. And then coming around to the back, we can take the other end of our strap, connect it there, and there you have it. Okay, I'm gonna head back over to the cutting table and I'll show you in greater detail. All right guys, here is the finished project. I'm affectionately calling it the neck basket. Here it is from the inside. You have the adjustable strap so you can have it up closer or a little bit further down off of the front of your body. Right here is where you would connect or slide in your phone. So like that, and it would hold it just like that against your body as you are working. So if you're a content creator or if you're just looking for a way to record what you're doing but still have your hands free, this is perfect for that. All right, I hope you enjoyed this free tutorial and I hope you get to make lots of fun neck baskets. And if you do, please go ahead and share them in my Facebook group because I love to see what you guys make. All right guys, have a great day and go sew something fun.